we are, another morning with your good buddy Spider. You're sipping coffee with me, getting ready for the news. And it is still getting colder here in Ohio. We're getting into the main part of fall now, or autumn, as some people would like to say. And yeah, so let's get right down to it. Let's get in with the news. From Reuters, U.S. judge limits enforcement of forced reset trigger ban. And let me see if I can read that or if it's going to be paywalled, because Reuters has a bad tendency to just paywall everything. Let's see. Says, okay, it's going to let me read some of it. A federal judge in Texas has sharply limited the Biden administration's ability to enforce a ban on forced reset triggers, aftermarket accessories that allow AR-15 type rifles to be fired more rapidly by automatically returning the trigger to its starting position after it is pulled. And very interesting, because it's specifically for a certain Texas gun rights group, the NAGR, and it's a preliminary injunction, not a final ruling, but it will remain in effect while he hears the case. And this is a tricky area. There's been a lot of things that people have done to try to curb gun violence. And one of the things that they've been doing is trying to limit the accessories that you can add to your weapons. And a lot of arguments have gone as far as Second Amendment rights, and the Second Amendment advocates have won most of those cases so far. Now, will that remain to be the case indefinitely? Who knows? It's hard to say, but so far that is the trend. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. I don't have a good solution to the gun violence problem, really. I do know that if you try to just ban things outright, people are going to get them anyway. There's not much you can do about it, which I'm not saying that we should just roll over and take things. I'm just saying that the more you try to outlaw something, the more likely people are to go for it. So we'll see how everything goes from there. From WWG, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 won't be coming to Xbox Game Pass, despite the looming purchase of Activision by Microsoft. And, that's fine. Call of Duty is a moneymaker, and I don't think any of them will end up going to Game Pass, regardless of the Activision decision. Call of Duty games are now, with the new price structure, $70 a pop minimum, plus all the different in-game cosmetics and things that people will buy, and the various DLC packs that are basically just extra maps and extra stuff. No actual missions or story stuff, just multiplayer. So I don't think it's likely that Call of Duty as a franchise will ever go to Game Pass. Other franchises have been very successful on Game Pass, but Call of Duty is too much of a short-term moneymaker. So, makes sense to me. That being said, I don't play Call of Duty too much anymore. The last one I really was looking forward to, I think, was 3. And maybe Ghosts. I think I bought Ghosts when it first came out, and I was disappointed. It was just another revenge story. Really generic. And I don't buy them anymore, because it's basically the same game over and all, and they've shortchanged the campaign so many times in favor of the multiplayer. I don't play multiplayer, so I don't dig it. So, but there we go. Another one from WWG. PlayStation fans surprised with unexpected remaster of PlayStation 1 Cult Classic. Which game was it? Was it the game that I played back in the day? Because I played PlayStation 1 before I switched to Xbox. It's a turn-based tactics game. What was the game called? Hogs of War is what it's called. So I guess I don't know what that is. I have no idea. But if you are into it, then you can get a remaster for your modern PlayStation system. ABC News, once again, sticking our noses in where we don't belong. The United States is surging air defense and other munitions to Israel, official says. I get it. I get it. They're an ally and things like that, but I just it's like Ukraine. It's a private conflict over there. It shouldn't have anything to do with us. But maybe it does, and that's why we're so interested. Because maybe we've had more to do with that situation than people know. But that's more money that's going to be adding to the inflation and contributing to the deepening financial crisis here in the United States. I think Israel will be fine. They have one of the strictest militaries in the world. They're super high end as far as technology. They've made themselves a military nation. Everybody has compulsory military service for a certain length of time once they hit a certain age. And, I don't think they need our help. They're not up against somebody like China. They're not up against a major power. They're up against the neighbors next door who are using homemade rockets. They don't need us. Yeah, this attack caught them by surprise and there's a lot of damage, but they don't need us. Keep the money here. Not going to happen, but that's my opinion. Consequence of Sound has the Sick New World 2024 lineup if you're interested in that festival. And I saw the poster for it, and there's a ton of people there. And that is also a new trend that's been happening the last couple of years, is that festivals are really being like a big deal after some duds like Fire Festival and some other things that have had some big controversies. And with the virus years waning behind us now, festival organizers have just been packing these things, packing as many bands and as much content and everything that they can so that they can get a skim of every bit of merchandise to cover the cost and to line their pockets. So festivals are where it's at as far as the business goes. There's still plenty of bands touring, but festivals are where the music business itself is concentrating its attention. Whether that's good or bad thing, I don't know. I don't really go to shows anymore. I'm a grouchy old man. I don't do that. But who knows? 96.1 The Eagle, massive candy recall after death of New York State child. Ooh, boy. Let me see. Why was it recalled? Was it like tampered with, or was it what's the deal here? 70 million units of popular candy have been recalled. The Consumer Product Safety Commission announced the recall of 2 popular candies, and that's 70 million. Let's see. One of them is something I haven't even heard of. It's cocoa candy rolling candy. 145,800 of those. That's it. It's that brand. It's cocoa. It's rolling candy. They look like little tubes, and you open them up, and there's like a ball at the end, and I guess you I don't know. Oh, and people are choking on the ball, apparently. That's what it is. It's not supposed to come out of the thing, it's just supposed to lick it. And it came dislodged and became trapped in her throat. Hmm. That's not what I expected. That's not what I expected. That seems like something that should have been caught way ahead of time. And I've never heard of this stuff. And we're not big candy eaters in my house, but I mean, I would have thought for being quote unquote a popular candy, I thought I would have heard of it, but I guess I don't. Anyway, Washington Post with an interesting development. Vietnam tried to hack U.S. officials, and CNN with posts on formerly Twitter, now X, probe finds. Vietnam. I thought for sure we were allies with Vietnam these days. I guess you never can tell. Very interesting. Something to keep an eye on, I guess. Just another reason not to use X/formerly Twitter. It was garbage before. It's still garbage now. Nothing has changed. I've said this before, and I will say it again. That's why I left Twitter to begin with many years ago. It's a garbage fire. Reuters. Deadly humid heat could hit billions spread as far as U.S. Midwest, study says. Now that's interesting because it's getting cold here in Ohio. It's fall time, like I said. So is this coming up? Is there going to be a heat wave? No, it's humid heat within this century as temperatures rise. It's talking about climate change. So if you're interested in how that could go, some scaremongering tactics there, then take a look. Associated Press with another interesting development. European Union reverses earlier announcement that it was suspending development aid to Palestinians. Now, Hamas, which is the Palestinian terrorist group that's attacking Israel, there's a big wave of support for them, as much as there's a big wave of support for Israel. And it's interesting that the European Union said that they were going to stop sending aid to various regions housing Palestinians, and now they've changed course already within a short time frame. This situation is going all sorts of sideways as the days go on. WION with some far more interesting news for me. New study suggests the solar system is expanding further than we knew. Why is that? After decades of observing space deeply, astronomers came to the conclusion that icy boulders known as the Kuiper Belt thin out from 48 times the distance between Earth and the Sun. The belts of rubble have been seen extending for at least twice that distance around stars, making the solar system rather small by comparison. And let's see. It's possible our solar system has at least two rings of icy material divided by a gap at around 50 astronomical units, one consisting of the familiar Kuiper Belt, the other a wide stretch of icy boulders reaching as far from Pluto as Pluto is from us. Why such a gap might exist at all, of course, is a mystery. I wonder if things are changing in the gravitational pull of the sun. They don't have a lot of information in this article here. Maybe they don't want to frighten anybody, but that is very interesting. CBS News with extremely rare Jurassic fossils discovered near Lake Powell in Utah. Quote, right place at the right time, unquote. And that is awesome. As you folks know, I'm far more into space and dinosaurs than I am into Trump and Israel and Ukraine and the unions and everything else that's going on right now. And these are the kind of stories I like. If you want to share in my joy, that's CBS News. Washington Post, possibly some clickbait. Biden interviewed about classified documents found at his office and home. This is probably just cleanup, because if there was going to be some big major mess with him as far as these documents, as there is with the Trump angle of documents, I think it would have been quicker and we would have heard more about it. So I think this is just housekeeping. I think they're just going to ask him some questions and tell him to go on his way. Which is a shame, because the amount of effort they've gone into with these Trump documents should be applied equally across the board. I'm not saying they need to indict Biden over it, but I think they need to really dig deep for anybody that's done these things and go as far as they can go before they decide that they're finished with it. Because the optics are showing something different. And it's all about optics. And again, this story is continuing to evolve. From Reuters, Israeli military says deploying against possible infiltration from Lebanon. So it's expanding already. It's been a very short time, and the military action around this is already expanding. And I don't think we should be helping that. I think we should keep our cards on our table and let them do what they do. And if they step into a hornet's nest, then that's their own fault. That's what I think. That's what I think. Earth.com, Earth's largest ever solar storm discovered through tree rings. I'd like to know when this was. When was it? It's a colossal spike in radiocarbon levels from 14,300 years ago, found in tree rings from the French Alps. The colossal storm discovered by the scientists originated from the sun and was so powerful that a similar event today would be catastrophic with modern technology. A solar storm of this magnitude would cause massive destruction to power grids and satellite systems. Very interesting. And conceivably, our ozone and magnetosphere and various other protective layers of atmosphere were better then than they were now. Or were they? Perhaps the climate has changed and waxed and waned throughout the many centuries and millennia. Maybe it has very little to do with us and more just how the planet is, and we will all live or die based on how the planet feels on any given millennium, so to speak. It's something to think about. Something to think about. Reuters, a statement from China, says they oppose the violence and the attacks in Middle East crisis. Lip service from China while they're maneuvering their navy through the various China seas, moving against all their various neighbors. It kind of rings hollow from China, if I do say so myself. Newsweek. Ah, boy. Video of gun-wielding Donald Trump on pickup truck at festival goes viral. Of course it does, because that's what he wanted it to do. Is he a master manipulator who can, knows the pulse of America? Probably not. But does he know how to rile people up? Yes. Does he know how to get in the spotlight? Yes. And that's all this is. It's all about optics, and he knows the optics. And the other side, his opposition, he's to learn about optics and how they can affect things because they're trailing in that particular arena. Oh, pardon me. I'm trying to see what else has got here. PBS NewsHour. California's Governor Newsom vetoes bill to make free condoms available for high school students. Now, this is kind of a back and forth sort of thing here. Now, I kind of would have expected he'd have been on board with something like that because that's a Democratic platform kind of thing. But it's a complicated issue here because, for the one, we know we've all been that age. We all know in high school these days, and maybe even not these days, maybe back in our days before, we know the kind of things that go on with high school couples. We know there's teen pregnancies all over the place. We know that they're having relations. You can't just tell them not to. Hormones will get the better of people, and the best you can do is to try to tell them to be safe. Now, how are they safe? By using protective things like these protective prophylactics and whatnot. And but does that mean you should provide them to them in high school so that you kind of look like you're encouraging them to use them? It's a difficult question. It's one of those things where they're going to do it anyway. But you also don't want to encourage it because, they're not mentally old enough for things like children or STDs. I know I wasn't. I got into all kinds of trouble in high school, and I was not ready for it. I was not as big a man as I thought I was at that age, and I got into all kinds of trouble. And it caused me a lot of mental anguish. It was a long time ago. I'm a different person now. I've grown up, or I like to think so anyway. But so I can see both sides of that, and there's no good way for me to answer that. He, however, Mr. Newsom, is going to get in trouble with his own party, I'm sure, for that action, because plenty of people are going to say that they should have done that, it shouldn't have been vetoed, etc., etc. Who knows? TMZ with some clickbait. Britney Spears posts and deletes dance video with bandaged finger, and it looks like on the screenshot she's in her panties, which of course TMZ is all over. And once again, it's just one of those. She's either just going through a crisis or she's just getting attention, and you should just leave it alone. Just push Britney Spears off to the sidelines. Let her be irrelevant, at least for a while. It's not like she's making music or doing anything. She's just somebody who used to be a pop star, and now she just gets by on being crazy. Whether it's calculated crazy or whether it's a serious mental problem, who knows? I don't think we should encourage this kind of thing, and I don't think we should be watching so closely. I think we should not make light of the problem or encourage it to continue. That's what I think. And TMZ, of course, is going to be who they are. They're into celebrity gossip. That's their deal. I get it, but let's move on. Let's move on. And that's about it. Like every single story on this list, for the most part, is all about Israel and Hamas. And once you've read two or three of those, you've read them all. It's an evolving thing, and nobody has anything new about it. So, not much else to speak of. If you folks have anything that you'd like to speak of, you can drop a comment on this video on YouTube, or you can send me an email at uncannyspiritsclub@gmail.com. I will gladly read what you have to say, as long as you don't call me a bunch of bad names and use poor language. If you can use civil discourse, I will definitely interact with you. This cat might, or he might not. I don't know. He tends to be up here nowadays during the news yelling at me for something. But, and you know what? I'm going to give you a pass for breakfast this time. I'm going to let you make a breakfast of your choice. Mystery breakfast. And I'm just going to go back to bed because I'm tired. I'm going to skip breakfast today, and I'm going to have a big lunch in a few hours. How's that sound? You don't even got to provide me lunch. I'll eat my own lunch. But tomorrow I'll be back, and I'm going to be hungry. Probably. Maybe. Who cares? Go eat. I'll see you folks tomorrow.